What happens when one of gaming's most iconic studios faces backlash after a major release? The story of Dragon Age, the Veilguard and BioWare's massive restructuring is nothing short of a cautionary tale for the industry. BioWare, once celebrated as the gold standard for RPGs with masterpieces like Mass Effect and Dragon Age Origins, is now fighting for its survival after a release that left the gaming community in disarray. The studio, which had built a legacy of innovative storytelling, character-driven narratives, and expansive worlds, is now dealing with a tarnished reputation, massive layoffs, and the very real possibility of losing its grip on the gaming world. But what went wrong? How did a studio with such a storied history spiral into crisis so quickly? Stick around as we explore the shocking fallout from Dragon Age: The Veilguard, delve into the studio's troubled past, examine the reasons behind the catastrophic failure of the game, and discuss the future of BioWare. Will BioWare make a comeback, or is this the end of an era in gaming? Before we dive deep, let's take a look at the studio's rise to fame and how it got to this point. Welcome to What's Up Nerd Insider, your go-to source for all things gaming, movies, and nerd culture. If you love staying on top of the latest developments, juicy controversies, and insider insights, this is the place to be. But before we dive into the deep stuff, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on future videos like this one. BioWare's current crisis can't be understood without a look at its past. Founded in 1995 by Ray Muzyka, Greg Zeshuk, and Robert Worth, BioWare quickly became a household name in the gaming industry. From Baldur's Gate to Mass Effect and Dragon Age Origins, BioWare was known for crafting engaging RPGs that focused on player choice, complex characters, and narrative depth. However, after the critical and commercial disappointment of Dragon Age, Inquisition, and the disastrous release of Mass Effect Andromeda, BioWare's future became uncertain. Fans began to wonder if the magic that once made BioWare great had run out. But the release of Dragon Age: The Veilguard was supposed to be BioWare's redemption arc. Unfortunately, it had the opposite effect. What was intended to be a new direction for the franchise turned out to be a misfire, both in terms of gameplay and story. The backlash was swift and brutal, as fans expressed their dissatisfaction with the changes to gameplay, the shift in narrative focus, and the overt political messaging. As a result, BioWare began its painful restructuring process. More than half of the studio's workforce, including key writers and developers, were laid off. But the ramifications of these layoffs go beyond just the loss of jobs. The restructuring marked a clear signal that BioWare was no longer the powerhouse studio it once was. And as the layoffs continue to mount, it's becoming more difficult to imagine a BioWare that can recover to its former glory. The reports are staggering. After Dragon Age: The Veilguard bombed, EA began a wave of layoffs that has left BioWare with fewer than 100 employees, down from over 200 just 2 years ago. These cuts have been particularly brutal, with every single writer who worked on the game's campaign being fired. Additionally, key staff members who worked on past BioWare classics have left or been let go, further thinning out the talent pool. According to insiders, BioWare is now focused on rebuilding, but this process is not going to be quick or easy. EA's official stance is that the studio is now leaner and more agile, but fans are skeptical. Can BioWare, stripped of its veteran talent, still deliver a game worthy of its legacy? It's important to understand why Dragon Age: The Veilguard failed so spectacularly. The Dragon Age franchise had built its reputation on tactical RPG gameplay and deep narrative choices. Dragon Age Origins was a groundbreaking title that allowed players to shape their character's journey through complex moral decisions, while Dragon Age Inquisition continued that tradition with an expansive world and gripping storylines. However, Dragon Age: The Veilguard deviated from this formula. BioWare chose to shift the franchise into an action-oriented experience, prioritizing combat mechanics over storytelling and exploration. Fans of the franchise were outraged, and they weren't the only ones. Critics were quick to point out how the game felt more like a generic action title rather than a true Dragon Age game. On top of this, the decision to insert politically charged themes into the narrative left many players alienated. Dragon Age: The Veilguard featured storylines about gender, transitioning characters, and heavily emphasized inclusivity. But it didn't do so in a way that felt organic to the game world. Instead, it felt like the game was trying to push a political agenda, which many players found off-putting. Dialogue choices revolving around pronouns and relationships were handled in a way that disrupted immersion, leaving fans confused about what kind of game they were playing. The failure of Dragon Age: The Veilguard has had dire consequences for BioWare. Once celebrated for its role in shaping the RPG genre, the studio is now struggling to maintain relevance in an increasingly competitive industry. The layoffs are just the tip of the iceberg. BioWare's entire future is at stake. Among the many layoffs were some major figures in BioWare's writing team. Trevor Weeks, lead writer of Dragon Age: The Veilguard. Karen Weeks, editor for Mass Effect 2, 3 Andromeda, and Dragon Age. Ryan Cormier, editor for Dragon Age: The Veilguard. Jennifer Chevy, a veteran tester and producer. These writers were not just employees, they were part of what made BioWare games special. Losing them is a massive blow to the studio, and fans are left wondering who will pick up the pieces. With Mass Effect being one of BioWare's flagship franchises, all eyes are now on the next installment. The new Mass Effect is said to be in development, but with BioWare's history of failures, especially Andromeda, fans are understandably cautious. Will EA allow BioWare the time and resources it needs to rebuild, or will the next Mass Effect mark the end of the studio's legacy? The situation is dire for BioWare, but all hope is not lost. If there's one thing that gaming history has shown us, it's that studios can bounce back from failure. The road to recovery won't be easy for BioWare, but it's not impossible. The studio has an opportunity to learn from its mistakes, especially with its upcoming Mass Effect project. If BioWare can regain its focus on storytelling, world building, and player choice, there's a chance it can regain the trust of fans. But that's a big if. If BioWare continues to push politically driven narratives at the expense of quality gameplay, it risks losing an entire generation of gamers. The next Mass Effect will be the ultimate test. If BioWare can deliver, it might just be able to rebuild its legacy. If not, it could mark the end of an era. There's no simple answer when it comes to BioWare's future. Can the studio recover from the fall? Will Mass Effect 4 be the triumph that saves BioWare? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain, BioWare is at a crossroads, and its next move will determine its future. What do you think? Is BioWare done for, or is there a path forward? Let us know in the comments. Now, I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on BioWare's fall from grace? Have you played Dragon Age: The Veilguard? What went wrong for you? What do you think about the direction BioWare took? Was it about time for a change, or did the studio just lose its way? Let us know in the comments. Your feedback is what keeps us going. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on future videos like this one. And remember, welcome to Waz Up Nerd Insider is your go-to source for all things gaming, movies, and nerd culture. If you love staying on top of the latest developments, juicy controversies, and insider insights, this is the place to be.